In this video, we will cover what makes an effective starter, the order in which you should build your base, and common mistakes I see people making that might cost them those crucial early game raid defenses. If you're a builder, clan member, or just a Rust player trying to improve, I recommend you all watch this video to help get your team ahead of the curve. The concepts discussed here apply to most cases, and will hopefully help get your team from a bunch of disorganized potatoes to one that can have a defendable starter in less than an hour of wipe. Hopefully you guys will find this video informative because it literally took me ages to make. I will be demonstrating all these steps on my newest release base, the Halloween. This video is also a part 1 for the tutorial for it. Let's get to it. Rusty Loot's one of the newest gambling sites in the market. They offer a wide variety of game modes and are constantly hosting giveaways on their Discord. Feel free to use code OMER to get a couple cents and try your luck. Links in description. To begin with, what even consists of an effective starter in Rust? An effective starter makes the best use of materials provided, has enough storage to sustain early game farming, and has a defendable stage that can be reached early on. We'll start this base off with the core. The core of your base will be the first thing that you lay out. It will house furnaces, boxes, workbenches, and most importantly your TC. An effective core provides mobility, multiple exits, and has enough doors to prevent early game ghosting. Building the starter of the Halloween is pretty straightforward. You want to lay out the foundations of a standard circle footprint, and expand another layer with the same foundations as before, so you want squares touching squares and triangles touching triangles. From there, on every other external layer of triangles, you want to add a door frame. You follow that up with a basic airlock and a jump up on the opposite side. You can then close up the roof and add double doors to protect the jump up. Feel free to organize this inner layer however you'd like. Hopefully through all these cinematics you get a rough idea on how I'd do it. Add your boxes, furnaces, and let's get moving to the next step. But before that, let's cover mistake number 1, not adding shotgun traps as soon as you can. Shotgun traps are your best friend to prevent ghosting and holding down a raid defense. It's very important to get them down as soon as possible. But my teammates keep getting killed by it. Fuck your teammates. Unload the trap to let someone in, and then make sure to replace the ammo. My go-to spot for the shotgun trap is right under the jump up. This way, it covers both the entrance and drop down to the core. After you get your first floor down, the next thing you want to do is putting up your externals. This will make it so that you have a footprint for the compound and can get large furnaces running. This base makes use of 12 external TCs, with 2 different designs. For the first one, you want to expand with 3 triangles and a square from the entrances of your base. From there, go 3 squares and a triangle out, and return with triangles. This will form the wide gap of the layout. From that triangle, expand with a square, a half moon, a square, a half moon, and then 2 more squares. Place 3 raised triangle foundations and remove the square connecting it to the rest. Cover the triangles with the walls, adding 2 half walls to the side facing the base. Place a triangle frame, your cupboard, a window frame, and a secondary triangle frame, but leave this one at twig. Place a square roof tile and you've successfully got yourself a disconnectable TC. At this point your team probably doesn't have that many metal frags, so start with key locks if you have to. Back to the wide gap, you want to remove that original triangle and add 3 more triangles to each side of the square. That gets the first layout out of the way. The second one, it's a little trickier. Since we are building at an angle, you want to build your wide gap as follows. Start off with a triangle, a square, and another triangle. From there, expand with 2 more squares and a triangle. Remove everything but the last foundation, return with triangles, and then place 2 squares. From that closest triangle to the base, repeat the same exact process as the last TC. Only this time, go 3 squares out on the last step. That's about it for the externals. Let's get on to the next step. Jump ups are crucial early game to provide mobility and some initial shooting points. Start off by adding triangle ramps to both sides of the squares. Go 2 layers up and create your shooting point by adding half and low walls to the external side of the ramp. Connect your jump up to the core and seal the roof of the second floor. For the third story, place door frames facing outwards. Back to the core, add a simple door frame and a sealed jump up to the next layer. Add a window frame, doorway, and cover the rest with walls. Seal the roof and make sure you add exits with half walls to the next layer. Make sure to repeat this step in all sides of the base, even the ones with no access to the core. The build process is the same, however, since there is no way up through the inside, just place roof tiles on that area. At the end, it should be looking something like this. Before we move on, I'd like to point out mistake number 2, filling out honeycomb earlier than necessary. The reason I asked you to seal the second floor to the core rather than the first is so that we can later fill it out with honeycomb. I often see builders filling out gaps early game with stone just to get it out of the way. That not only wastes resources you don't have, but also makes your base significantly weaker. Just wait it out, the metal will come eventually. On to the next step. Back to the first wide gap, you want to place 2 door frames on each side of the inner triangles. For the second one, do the same for the outer corners of the square. Place your floors, walls, and roof to complete the early game shooting. It's best that the roofs are all connected to the base to limit peaks enemies have in the event they take control of the top. You can optionally place walls like so to limit their peaks even more. Repeat this process on all sides without doors as well, leaving gaps where the inner doorways should be. Back to the connection to the core, you can add an early game locker which allows you to access it through the inside and outside of the base. Which leads me to mistake number 3, overcrowding the core. In the event of early game raid, most members sprint to the core and try to get a kit on. With these lockers you have great mobility and access to guns on all sides of the base. After completing all these steps on every side of the base, your starter is complete and very defendable. The next step I'd follow on the base building process to increase security and respawn points would be the China wall. For multi-seas number 1, expand with a square, 3 triangles, and then 2 more squares from both sides. Wall everything off and section out layers as you please. For TCs number 2, create your entry points, and by placing a low wall on the triangles facing inwards, you get access to a ridiculously broken shotgun trap that protects the gaps. Now that I'm editing this, I do realize some of the jump ups aren't there when building this. Just ignore that part. Pretend like they are. Create your hallway towards the base, and by using half walls, windows, and roof tile, create your circle of peaks. You can then close that off like so. This about concludes the build for the first part of the Halloween. At this point, your starter should be looking something like this. I didn't include placing most doors, beds, and the compound itself because I figured this would all be pretty straightforward. I recommend you all adapting this base to your own preference, as copy-pasting bases from YouTube won't get you too far. A comment would be greatly appreciated, and make sure to send this video to all your teammates who need a little help properly understanding the clan dynamic. In the next video, we will be looking at what makes a good open core, and how to section it out to make it basically unraidable. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.